Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and I am back from day 20 for the March Madness Sketch Challenge, which is from Scrap Now, Sleep Later. We're going to be using this sketch today, and I'm going to be pulling out this really old collection from Echo Park called Little Girl. And I am actually going to be scrapbooking my niece, which this is going to be the very first layout that I am scrapbooking of her. And of course, they are of her very cute newborn photos that we got taken at the hospital. Now, this sketch calls for photos, but no real background. So I was like, that's not going to work for me. I pulled out this orange paper that has pink hearts on it, and I'm going to cut it in, not really half, but in this way that I've been doing it a lot lately, where you cut like a larger size for one side and a smaller size for the other side. And then, of course, adding a 1/4 inch strip. So you can see that there's really no background paper at all for this sketch. And by adding this pattern paper in the center, I think that it really helps bring all these photos together. In the centerpiece, I'm going to add the 4 photos like the sketch calls for. Unfortunately, on the end, I did not have the right orientation. So what I decided to do for the right hand side of the photo, of course it calls for a 4x6, and I had a 4x3 there, so I had about 2 inches that I needed to find. So I pulled out these cards here. They're not really 3x4s, like some of them are, but there's some that are smaller, and I thought I could make this pink work over on the right hand side, but then realized that I was going to be cutting off like most of the pink. So I brought the paper back out, and I found this pink card that has like a little wand on it and some lines, and I thought that that would work perfectly, and I could cut it down and it would still work. On the left hand side, it calls for 2 3x4s, which obviously I didn't have as well because I had those little baby feet. Aren't they so cute? And I couldn't find a card, but I knew that I was going to be using this sticker that had all of like the onesies on it. So I was like, I'm just going to use this pattern paper that also has the onesies on it. And I just cut down a square to fit into that area there as well. Now I have the proportions right that the sketch calls for, just with those 2 extra cards. So I did go ahead and ink all of the edges of the pattern paper in like a light pink. And then I'm going to go ahead and get all of the paper down. And while I'm doing that, I do want to encourage you guys to go check out the Scrap Now, Sleep Later Facebook group. We have tons of inspiration going on with this March Madness. All of the details are listed below, and we would love to have you join us in on this March Madness. So I felt like my photos were getting lost and needed a little extra something for the layout. So I decided to first start out with putting the 2 4x6s on the ends on a pattern paper, the purple like tone-on-tone stripe paper. And then I found this card that says love you, and I thought that was perfect to add over to the far right hand side where it calls for a little embellishment piece there. So I went ahead and inked up the edges of both of those and got them down. And I will tell you that the amount of times that I moved this layout around and moved these photos around, oh my goodness, I put my hands on these photos so many times. It was crazy. A lot of it I cut out, but some of them I did leave in. Well, then I felt like the photo of Eli and Nevaeh was getting lost, so I mounted that on a teal. Well, then I was like, well, if I'm going to mount that, and I've already mounted the other 2, I might as well mount the 2 4x3 on the layout. I couldn't find a pattern paper that I liked, so I just went ahead and mounted those on white, which I think is okay because of the white cardstock in the background. And there is a lot of pattern in this, which I find it very interesting that I started out with a sketch that had absolutely no pattern paper on it, and I got so much pattern paper on it by the time I'm done with this layout. I love using the We Are layering guides. These things are amazing in regards to making sure that I have the right amount of space around all of the photos. Now I found a little tag that says sugar and spice. That's what little girls are made of. I love that saying, so I went ahead and add that to the left. Over on the right is where I'm going to add that sticker that is the clothing hanging up. There's a little onesie and a shirt and a pair of pants. What I do is add fun foam to the backs of the clothing, but not the like clothesline piece, like what they're hanging off of, so that that is flat to the layout. and it gives it a little bit of dimension, almost like they're kind of blowing in the wind. I go ahead and add that photo down of Eli and Nevaeh, and using my T-square ruler, add the one that is backed on that purple right next to it. And then of course adding that love you up on fun foam. And I really like having that love you on that photo there because he loves being a big brother. Once I got the photo down on the left hand side of the layout, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I didn't back this other photo. So I had to find another piece of paper, which I ended up using this like pink plaid paper to back that photo. So all of the photos get backed except for the two that are on the far left and far right hand side. I did end up pulling up that photo of Eli and Nevaeh because I realized I didn't put it on fun foam and I did want it to stand up a little bit. So I pulled it up and added the fun foam behind it. Now I'm going to add the picture of the feet and the pattern paper that has the clothesline on it. And then I'm going to use my T-square ruler to add the photo above it. I'm going to take the layout from the right and move it over to the left, and then I'm going to use my T-square ruler to make sure that the photos line up. The next couple of days, there are going to be a ton of grid photos. I'm going to be over it by the time I think the third layout comes in. The amount of grid photos and making sure that these layouts and photos are straight, whew, it's been a lot. But then I realized that once I got that photo on the left down, that I needed to put some space between the photo and the pattern paper so that they went even with the edges of the photos. So I found a little bird and I added that to the top of the sugar and spice saying, and then I had added the fun foam to that love you square, but because I then added the fun foam on the picture, I had to take some of it off so that it would lay flat on the layout. Then I have this little purple oval and I do go ahead and cut that in half and tuck it underneath the photo, and my title is going to be in that section as well. I first started out with the stickers that came with the collection, but I do not like the stickers when they are different colors. So I spell out her name Nevaeh and I just didn't like the way that it looked. So then I pulled in these white stickers that have like a pink foam underneath it. They were really large and I didn't like the way that that looked either. So I ended up pulling that up. And then when I finally get it down with these like white foamy glitter stickers, I spelled her name wrong. So it wasn't until I stood up and again took a photo to send to my friend, I was like, yep, that's spelled wrong. So it's going to be spelled wrong for the rest of the layout, but just know it is spelled correctly at the end. Then I pulled out my embellishment books and I'm really just kind of looking through and pulling out some hearts and simple items. And then I found this Imagine That collection that I have, and there was a couple of sticker sheets on that I thought I could use. I did add that Dream Big, but it came up to bring down this sticker here that says, sometimes the smallest things take up the most room inside your heart. And I thought that that was perfect for these newborn photos of Nevaeh. I then added a little floral piece over to the far right to that cluster. I added this single teapot that came from the Imagine That collection, but I didn't like the way that looked, so I went ahead and just took that up and put in these teacups from the collection that I'm actually using. And then I added enamel shapes in a pink, purple, and blue. And then that is it. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you go check out the March Madness information that is posted below. And if you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.